Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Friday morning trading session, TGIF and all that. Hold on a second here. I'm going to get you my monitor. In the past, there's been some questions about how I load Trade Manager. How do I load Trade Manager? Because I don't want to set it up every morning. So I haven't loaded up my Trade Manager this morning. I'm going to show you how I do it. It's actually quite simple. I've loaded my charts. I've got my data feed going. Remember, with Trade Manager, you always need to have a data feed on. So I simply click my strategies button, which will go to my strategies. You see, it already has Trade Manager on. Really, all I need to do is click OK. That's it. It's as simple as that. If for whatever reason Trade Manager doesn't load, then what I need to do is I need to click, I need to remove it, I need to apply. Well, here, I'll show you. So let's say this did not load, so I need to remove it. I click apply, and now I'm going to reapply it. And this is why I have my templates. So I'm going to load my Raptor template. I'm going to put my Raptor account on it and allow that to load. There. So it really only takes me a few minutes to put Trade Manager onto my chart. So I hope that clears things up for some of you who have been having problems or some sort of problem loading Trade Manager. It shouldn't be that cumbersome. All right, so a very interesting day yesterday, and today I think it's the first morning that we haven't really opened up with the gap. Let's take a look here what's been going on in the overnight. And yesterday you can see we had a major run up, an amazing rally day yesterday, amazing. So hopefully you were able to take advantage of that. A little bit of a reversal here. I would not have gotten too keen on the reversal. I would have considered taking the trend change signal because it is a trend change signal, but I very likely would have dialed down my risk amount. I would have been all in, all out, because this is just an enormous uptrend. You don't want to be shorting into that. Okay, so then the market floundered a little bit higher in the overnight, and now here we are working on a trend change signal to the downside. And like I said, this is the first morning we have opened without a gap all week. And it looks like we are stuck in a little bit of a trading range looking something like this. Actually, let's make this a little bit bigger. And we can probably look at, well, we could even, I was going to say we could tighten the range a little bit like this, but you know what? I'm going to leave it like that, just so I know the boundaries. Looks like they're falling just a little bit short of our primary resistance and support lines. Okay, so here we're getting a trend change signal to the downside. It's still very early, and this market is still trying to get its feet. So what if we just threw a little onesie in there? Can we take that? No, we can't take that. What if we risk it back here to the swing? See, the problem I'm having is the lack of direction. I don't want to get stuck in a sideways market only to have them churn me about. Trade Manager won't let me take it at 1%. Maybe I can take it at 1.5%, risk it above the high. Or I just pass on the trade. You know, that's always an option, right? Flat is a position after all. And all I'm trying to do is, if this market is going to bring me in, oh, triple witching day today. Thanks, Jim. That doesn't help. We got lots of expiration. We might be struggling for direction as the options empty out, the stock market rolls. Everybody is options are expiring. And we're also into the hard edge. I guess I should have taken a look at that before I got too keen on selling. But we'll see. It's only a swing trade. Maybe we can sneak a couple of dollars out of this. If nothing else, once the buyers, or pardon me, the sellers show me where they're at, I'll be able to roll my stops. So we're just about almost to our break even. At this point, I could safely roll my stop above here if I chose, because obviously this resistance now is going to hold as they try to get down to some of these lows from yesterday's Asian session and the overnight. Had I taken it on the hash mark, we would probably be at our profit objective already. Wow, fantastic. Jim did really good. He said yesterday at 12:30, a nice trend line break that we talked about that had a great sell for plus 30 points. Well done, Jim. Well done. Oh, thanks. Jim's given me the play-by-play here, the market play-by-play. He says the advanced decline. Oh, actually, we're a little lopsided today, or in favor. I shouldn't say lopsided. In favor of the sellers today. We have only about 1,150 buyers and 1,500 sellers. So that's what, about a negative 350, 400. Remember, advanced decline numbers are relative to each other. They're not absolutes. Oh, hooray. Hooray. Caught a nice little move there, I guess. Well, it was the first move of the day. I was going to say, I guess in hindsight, I could have taken multiple contracts on it, but that's okay. Nice 4-arrow consolidation here in the Hawk. Look at that. First micro macro cross, macro pullback, 4-arrow consolidation, all in one. Beautiful. Do you guys see that? Here's your first micro macro cross signal. Here's your macro pullback signal. And then here is your 4-arrow consolidation. The 4-arrow consolidation is the only signal I will take on a yellow bar. Everything else is a no-no. So now now that we've broken down here, as we get somewhere around this 45.15 area, we're likely to see a little bit of a bounce, maybe a test of the extreme. The band is likely to turn over here on our eagle, and we could produce another sell signal if in fact they are committed to heading lower today. Let's take a look at soybeans, which are dead quiet today. Not unusual given that it's a Friday. So soybeans also nice rally yesterday. It settled a little bit. Now they're working on a rule of three sell signal of all things. We do have the warning dot currently. We don't have the triangle hash mark, and we are still against the ATR. So we got a little bit of waiting to do, or you can anticipate that this bar will finish lower, which will print your hash mark. The next bar will also flip the ATR. If you wanted, you could set up to short the low. It's just, I know that when this bar finishes lower, it will print the hash mark and the triangle. And it will also turn over the ATR, so that will make our entry signal complete if you wanted to anticipate that. All right, what else do we have going on? Jim says the bank index is selling big time, and he says the NQ is the weakest of the bunch. And the YM is the strongest. You know, that is odd because normally those two markets, well, they used to follow each other around like a big brother and little brother, but not so much of late. Crude oil may be giving us a first micro macro cross to the upside. Here too, we need to be a little bit careful because this market is obviously in a downtrend, at least short term. And I'm going to show you another little hiccup. We've got the hard edge just above us and no real test of the extreme. So any buy in here off of this first micro macro cross, which is a high probability signal, I would probably frame it to enter above that little swing. And ideally, I would like to cover it all the way down here so that I can ride out any test of the extreme. Unfortunately, it's crude oil, and it's not going to allow me to do that. So it's another one of those situations where, well, do I accept the risk of taking a tighter stop? Or do I simply pass on the trade because I can't afford it? It's a hard decision to make, but really at the end of the day, it's entirely your call. It is your money after all. The DAX is selling off. Jim says that's no surprise. I'm going to throw the, oh no, I've got that soybean trade going. Let's put the euro up on this chart here on my crude oil chart. We'll load the euro. And we'll get that over here in just a second. I was curious as to what the euro is doing. That whole Greece issue, I tell you, I feel so bad for the European community. Like, what a mess. It's not that we're immune to it, and it's not like we're not going to have to face similar decisions here in North America. But one of the articles I read almost suggested that there was going to be a run on the banks in Greece, that the banks might not even open on Monday. What amazes me is these are things, that I've read about in history books, but not something that I've ever experienced myself, or certainly not from the point of view of a trader. Years back, I know there was a problem with Cyprus, and there's always these third world countries that are in danger of going bankrupt. New Zealand's not a third world country, but New Zealand comes to mind. About 20 years ago, they were on the ropes and on the verge of bankruptcy, but they pulled themselves out of it. And here we are with Greece. And I was just curious what was going on with the euro, because the whole Greek situation has to be weighing on the euro, just has to. And yet, you look at the overnight, it's been relatively quiet. So they mustered a relatively quiet day yesterday, a little bit of a rally the day before, so overall the euro's been fairly bullish. Here's the overnight. You would have, well, I suppose on the hawk this will look more dramatic. A fairly decent move to the downside. Here they're coming into the hard edge now. I don't know if I could bring myself to buy, even though there is still a lot of room up here. We got some distance to make up. It can still get up to 1370. I don't know. I was just curious about that, to see what was going on with the euro. We'll throw crude oil back. Yeah, John says they've been there several times and they pulled back. I know it's politics, folks. It would be a shame. It would be a shame for a country like that. But there's not much I can do about it, is there? No, not really. Yeah, Jim's got a good idea here. He says you got to hedge with gold and silver and cash. That's probably why gold, or part of the reason why gold took such a huge spike yesterday. Traders not willing to invest in currencies, looking for alternatives. Yeah, John says tough negotiations. I know. Well, nobody likes to be told what to do, right? You're a sovereign country. Sure, you've bought into the euro currency, but nobody wants to be told what to do, how to run their country. And that's everybody's right to be sure, but at the same time there are consequences with all our decisions, aren't there, big or small? And here's a consequence I'm looking at right now. Speaking of consequences, crude oil looking at that first micro macro cross. I'm going to set it up so that I can take it at 2%. The trend bothers me a little bit. The lack of a test of the extreme bothers me a little bit. But if it can poke above these highs and do it sooner rather than later, we might actually get a little bit of a fill and some momentum going. Yeah, I got a bunch of comedians in the room this morning. Just says, "Oh, come on, Eric, bail grease out." Yeah, that's I can do that, sure. Yeah, I think they might require a little bit more money than what I have. First, here, this is something interesting that we have here. We've got our first micro macro cross signal after our 4-arrow consolidation. Why is that a first micro macro cross? Well, don't forget the first micro macro cross occurs after a market has been out of sync and comes back into sync. So here our trend lines went out of sync. Well, actually our filter didn't go out of sync. It would have been a little stronger if our filter had gotten out of sync, but 2 out of our 4 are all out of sync. I would have given this a little bit more weight than just a regular signal. The problem with this signal is, where do I cover this trade? Right? I can't cover it right here. That's just suicide. You know you're going to get stopped because the market has made a rather big move lower. So what else can I do? Well, I could cover it up there. That would be relatively safe, actually, because we have seen this is where the sellers are prepared to dig in. Alternatively, I could risk back here to the macro line in case there's some sort of macro pullback. I would prefer to go with the deeper stop, seeing how it's only going to allow me one position. I probably would throw a runner on the deal instead of taking the $50. And having this big of a stop just allows me a little bit more flexibility. If the market pulls back a little bit deeper, somewhere through here, I'm going to have the option of starting to roll my stops. But this stop is nothing more than a safety net. It's not here to give me like a 3-to-1 reward to risk ratio or even a 2-to-1 or 1-to-1. This stop is nothing more than a safety net. All right, so the market brings us in. Oh, actually they hit our target right off the first go, came right back with a macro pullback signal. This is the one I regret not seeing, because here too, it's already a macro pullback. We could have gotten in with a little bit more size, perhaps put a runner on it, and a very decent progression lower off of that. Here we are with another macro pullback. Well, that's not encouraging because we know we normally only get 2 macro pullbacks within a trend. So we might be looking at that test of the extreme coming sooner rather than later. All right. Crude oil, dead quiet. What in the world? That's not like crude. Although it is Friday. All right, our signals in crude starting to mash up a little bit. we've got the buy signal in the hawk, but here we are now with the eagle and the falcon producing a sell signal. Now, this is something that I don't do very often. I'm just going to do it so that you can see what it is I'm doing. But I'm setting up to sell a double dot signal. Why? Why would I do that? Well, a couple of reasons. The double dot is always strongest when you can tie it back to something. In this case, I can tie it back to this resistance right here, where the market turned. And when the market turned, it gave me this kind of move lower. It's not quite an early trend change signal yet. I am basing it on that double dot style formation. And I'm also basing it a little bit on what we got going on here on the eagle, in that we're starting to see a little bit of a reaction. We might be getting that test of the extreme. So I'm getting a little bit in there a little bit early. With the eagle, I could take it on the hash mark, or if I want to stay with my ATR, get everything in sync, I would wait for it to actually turn over on the ATR. So double dot signal, this one is technically, well, counter trend for the short term. The double dot is a counter trend signal, but long term, it is actually with trend. A little bit of a flyer. We'll see if it works out or not. And I noticed that Adam has been working on a public trading lounge for DTS owners to hang out in after our morning session. So those of you who have been looking for some chat room type possibilities, just hanging with other traders and exchanging ideas and so on, he is working on that. That's why I say, yeah, Phil says free coffee and donuts. You bet, Phil. Anything for you, bud. So that's why I say, you know, Adam always takes your suggestions and comments very seriously. So if there's anything that you would like to see, don't be shy about asking. All right, so here we are at this 45.15 area, which was yesterday's low, and you can see how the market is skewered. Technically, we had the late filter entry signal right here. And it did trip, and now we're coming back with another late filter entry. I'll bring Tim Hortons coffee, Phil. I don't know if you guys have Tim Hortons in your part of the world. It's a Canadian franchise. I know it's tried to make its way into the US. It's recently been bought out by Burger King. It was owned by Wendy's. Now it's owned by Burger King. Um, it's the Canadian equivalent of a Starbucks, I suppose. You can't hardly go to any street corner without, or in any major city, or even small town for that matter, because I live in a small town, without running into a Tim Hortons or a Starbucks. One year we went to visit my wife's family in Ontario, and they're really crazy about their Tim Hortons. I think there must have been at least two Tim Hortons every square mile. Honestly, you could not, you couldn't look anywhere without seeing a Tim Hortons. Oh, see, perfect. Phil says that's what I drink. All right. So we're all set. Yeah, Jim's right. He says very tight range this morning. So our opening range is going to end up being from about, oh, well, there it is right there to there. Put that back on the shelf for the moment. Hmm. One, two. Okay, we're starting to consolidate a little bit too much here. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, this is our 4-arrow consolidation. And we have a green bar sell. We've had several tests of the extreme. We're kind of getting a mishmash of signals here, right? The green bar sell we know tends to develop near the end of the trend. Not the strongest looking signal. All these yellow bars are giving me pause. I wonder if I should just consider buying the green bar sell. Or I can always just wait for the first micro macro cross signal to print. That's probably the more prudent course of action. I'm looking at things like a possible double pullback into the hard edge. There's a few things that could be going on here. Again, it's one of the luxuries if you're only looking for um, a handful of trades a day. You don't need to worry so much about, gee, should I be taking this 4-arrow consolidation? 1, 2, 3, 4. It is 4-arrow consolidation. And, we traders, we hate to miss a move. Just hate it. But every once in a while, like, where am I going to cover this? Right? Ideally, it needs to be covered way up here. I can't even get in with 2 contracts. I can only afford the one. I suppose I could have put a runner on it, see how far it'll go. All right, well, what I'll do is I will set it up like this. We'll see if they trade back above the line. I'll initiate the order. No, they're not going to give me that chance now. All right, you know what? There's better trades to look at. Here's crude oil, which has printed the signal, and now we are waiting for the ATR to come into sync. So the ATR will flip over after this bar finishes. I can see that it's just below the ATR, so you could set up your trade in advance and just park it there, wait for the market. It's obviously being a little bit more aggressive. And here is crude oil now on the hawk. And you can see that that first micro macro cross that we were watching never triggered and has since went into yellow bars, and now we're into a macro pullback. So we're still a little bit undecided. The hawk looking a tad bullish. And the other two instruments not so much. Well, the YM must be strong. Jim says the YM's trying to trade the trade up to the 10 a.m. high. So here is the mini Dow. Wow. Oh, sorry. Let's try that. That'll be better. Okay, so here's the mini Dow into the hard edge on our Raptor. We should see a reaction there. And that might actually develop into a double pullback. And if it came out of that double pullback with a sell signal, then that might be a good reason to get short. But honestly, right now, it looks like everybody's just chasing their tail around. One thing we have seen of the NQ of late is that it tends to make a move early and then it starts going sideways. Now, yesterday's move obviously was very substantial. The day before was a decent move also, but I don't know. I find it hard to believe that this is all that we're going to see out of the NQ today. What's my day ranger say? My 10-day average is 200 ticks, and we're recording about 110 right now. So that big opening range is kind of enveloping prices right now. The advanced decline still negative, but not quite as bearish as it was. Jim says or actually maybe it's pretty close. 1,200 positive and almost 1,600 negative, so it's still hovering around that negative 400 sellers. That usually tends to be kind of bearish. So we're getting a trend change signal here on the Falcon, and I know somebody's going to write me and say, Eric, how come you didn't take that trend change signal? Well, I could have. It is a trend change signal. It occurred right here. So I could have bought. The nice thing about this trend change signal is you can cover it below the low. The reason I'm refraining from buying it, at least with the full risk, with the full 2% risk, is because the market is paid off already to the downside. Right? When I have a one direction making me money, I tend not to trade the other way. Just make a little mental note. Okay, sellers are paying off today. I'm going to favor sell orders or sell signals versus buy signals. This would be a relatively safe trade. I'm doing air quotes, relatively safe trade to buy above this high right here. That's going to give us the second push on the signal and should bring some momentum with it. We're still hovering here between the primary support now and the median line. Anything below the median line also tends to be bearish. Anything above the median line normally tends to be bullish. Or, shall we say, have a bullish flavor to it. But we are in a trade room, so we'll throw that on there. You see, it's a little bit safer above this swing high, this little pivot here. Not only because it's the second push on the entry, but if the market comes down and reverses, then we're going to pick up on that momentum. We're going to pick up on that renewed momentum. Now, if the trend line changes here, that's going to obviously spoil our buy signal, and I'll nix the trade, but the buyers have this bar to turn things around. You got to get their act together pretty quick here. Possible sell signal building here. We're lacking a little bit of structure just like the other markets. Ideally I should risk it way up there, but that's making it difficult. Now our warning dot actually disappeared. Oh, there it is. All right, so you can see that our signal, our trend line has changed. That's voiding our signal. If anything, we're going to be working on a trend change signal to the downside now. So we've got, this is the part of the move that changes the trend line color. Here come the buyers. If the sellers come back and produce a sell signal, that will be saleable. But for the most part, they seem pretty content where they are. All right, here's a red bar buy on the hawk. Now I'm going to show this to you. It might work out, but it's not the type of trade that I would get too excited about. The reason I'm throwing it on, well, it is a red bar buy, so we're expecting a little bit of a rally here, some sort of test of these highs. But the one positive of this trade is where I can cover the position, right? I can cover it right below the lows. Essentially what we're looking for is we know the buyers showed up here, and they showed up again here. The sellers pushed the buyers down to here, so we're expecting the buyers to show up one more time and give the sellers another little bit of a push. But like I said, not the most attractive signal. If you're looking for a trade to follow in on, that's probably not it. But it is one of the signals that we look for, a red bar buy. So let's see if anything comes of it. Because there's not much else going on right now. And the NQ is still looking very weak. I could also set up, the other thing you could do is you could set up to sell the failure of the red bar buy. That's another option. That would be more with trend. They didn't slip us on the fill, which is interesting. Okay, we got our stops to break even. Come on, boys, couple more ticks. Oh, actually, they did slip us one tick on the entry. Just shows you how thin everything is. Seems to me the day before we kept getting slipped a tick or two. Oh, come on. Come on, buyers. Where's my Geiger counter? What's my Geiger counter doing? Oh, yeah, okay, well, we got some full-on buying going on. Get up there. And give you a little push with the mouse. There you go. Get up there. Come on. Get going. There you go. Come on. I'll tickle you. Get up there. Come on. Oh, they're just kissing the target. Get up there, you guys. Come on. There, you can do it. Come on. One more. Sometimes it helps if you hold your breath. Oh, whew. Now let's see if they can go any further than that. I wouldn't be surprised if they just keep going sideways now. Speaking of going sideways, if you were inclined, I suppose you could do an OCO order. We do have a fairly tight little range looking something like that. You could simply buy above and sell below. It's treated as a channel. The advanced decline has evened up a little bit. Oh, thanks, Joe. Joe says he threw in his big order there just to give the NQ a little bit of a push. Thanks, Joe. You're a pal. I appreciate it. So the advanced decline only about negative 200 now. So that's actually showing a little bit of strength because they were sitting around negative 400. Now they're negative 200. Technically, that is a little bit stronger. Now, the thing with the red bar buy, what I mentioned also, you can also set up to short the red bar buy, right? Because not only can you buy them, but you can also sell them. And now we're getting a first micro-macro cross higher. Ay, 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 ay. Another difficult day. We had the market pay off to the short side in a big way. We actually had a profitable trade to the upside. It's trading off both ways. Come on, get into yellow bars. Make this easy on me. I'm going to throw that sell order on there just to have it on the failure of this red bar buy. And why the failure of the red bar buy? Well, remember what I said. The buyers are tipping their hand here. So if the sellers can force the buyers below this low, we should see a little bit of a move to the downside. We're going to see some buyers start to evacuate their positions as they get trapped in their longs. Well, you know what? Here, I'm going to do it this way. We do have a first micro macro cross, as I said. So why don't we look to buy above and we will sell below. There, now we got it covered. And of course, if you want to do the OCO, you can expand your range. You can sell below here. You could buy above this little high here. Wow, dead flat. Hardly a ripple in the market. Again, even this OCO order, even this first micro macro cross, the lack of momentum today makes this very difficult. So don't feel like you got to take any trades here. Sometimes things will shake up a little bit in the afternoon if the morning's been a little bit quiet like this. They will loosen up a little. Okay, now we're back into yellow bars on our hawk. That's a good sign for the sellers. Wow. Look at how even this is. I think I've mentioned to you before that A lot of traders refer to this type of trading as barbed wire, and they just avoid it altogether. And you can see why they call it barbed wire, because it looks like the market is trading like barbed wire. It's like they say, flat is a position too, right? You don't always have to be in the market. Not losing money is just about as much fun as making money. Yeah, like John says, and just like barbed wire, you get cut up if you mess with it. That's exactly the point. If we're going to pick and choose our trades, if we're going to have that sniper mentality, then we don't need to be chasing stuff that is less favorable. Or if you're going to do it in sim. Or let me do it here in the trade room. If it works, well, you can make a note of it and say, all right, well, next time, if let's say this market breaks now to the downside, we're getting another red bar buy signal, or we disappeared there. If this trade happens to work to the downside, the next time you can make yourself a note and say, all right, if I encounter sideways trading and barbed wire, then I'm going to default to the side of the trend. But quite honestly, this market is so balanced right now. They can quite literally go either way. And isn't that just typical of a trade room moderator? Well, we can sell, but we can also buy. It might go higher, but it could go lower. Thank goodness there's only two options. All right, well, I thought we were going to see some momentum there for a second, but I was wrong. So we'll just let them do what they do. Our crude oil Falcon trade. I turned off the break even, although we just triggered the break even stop. We are closing in on our first profit target. So I'll keep an eye on that. I might need to take that to break even after all. So in spite of the slower day, we are holding our own. Kind of reminds me of last summer, last August, when the markets are traditionally very quiet. I had one of my most profitable months ever. All right, so we got filled here to the short side. I currently don't have a stop on, so I'd better take a look here at employing a stop strategy just to get one in play. Now Trade Manager will automatically give me a stop on this next bar. Whether this bar finishes higher or lower, it's going to give me a stop. There we go. Sorry, my mistake. I needed to press the accept button. Hooray! Crude oil slipped low enough to find our profit objective here on the Falcon trade. And now we're running into this support down here. Jim says feels to him like they're going to jerk the market up soon. Yeah, they very well might. You know, here they are, this reaction. Come on, sellers. Where are you? If the sellers get in here now, this could be a good first micro macro cross lower. Darn yellow bar. Come on, sellers. Jim is asking, can I see the YM Raptor? Absolutely. Here we go. So right now it looks to me as though the YM is working on a double pullback into the hard edge. If it comes out of here and generates a sell signal, that could be saleable. And if it comes up here and produces a buy signal, then that would be buyable. Here too, you could almost just bracket the range. You know, it's been so sideways. Where's my orders? Okay, something's going on there. Let me see if I can fix that. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So here too, what I was saying is it's such a tight range, we could practically just bracket the high and the low of this range and just let the market determine which way it wants to go, if it can even manage to get outside of there. It's so evenly balanced. Yeah, like Jim says, I haven't seen this tight of a 10 a.m. range in a while. You're absolutely correct. All right, so technically we've got a double pullback signal here, a very tiny one, but it is a double pullback nonetheless. So pullback, pullback. We are generating a sell signal now. I could just throw in a sell market, but you know what? I'll let it take out the lows. Okay, let's go check in on the other trades. Geiger counter full on red now, so we're going to see a little bit of a move here lower. Either the sellers don't want to take it or the buyers don't want to give it up. It's hard to say at the moment what's going on. We're honoring the trend line, which is good. We've broken support, which is good. We're printing a first micro-macro cross signal, which is good. We just need to see the sellers now get on board. Okay, we've broken. This is the retest. Looking for the resumption of the downtrend. No more yellow bars, please. We did hit our high probability profit target here, by the way, on the hawk. On this little move lower, we did get our $50 objective. I'm being a little bit cute here, and I hope it doesn't come back to bite me. I should have punched out with profit, but I didn't. The way the markets are moving today, we're probably not going to see a major move higher or lower. So going all in, all out, not a bad idea. We'll see if they move back in our favor. I'll probably just close out with some sort of profit. No surprise, Trade Forecaster says we're in scalp mode. But it says in about 20 minutes time we're going to move into trend mode. That's interesting. Yeah, both very good suggestions, Jim. Jim says I talked to Adam about the Geiger counter with a time reference on it and a trading lounge separate from what we're doing here this morning. If Adam can make it happen, he will make it happen. I know he was playing with the trading lounge yesterday. I see there's another room at the GoToWebinar where I open up this room every morning. Come on, sellers, where are ya? So here's the YM still floundering. We did produce technically a sell signal right there off of a double pullback. I've opted to bracket the range, but here too, my goodness, they're really taking their time. Last chance for the sellers. We've got a first micro macro cross signal. You can see we're getting near this trend line. Sellers have got to step up or else. Oh my gosh, you guys. No. All right, I'm gonna hold my stop back here, which could be problematic. I want to see where the sellers are. Sellers have got to step up here soon, at which time I'm going to go with me bar high-low strategy, and I'm going to be a lot more aggressive on it. Well, the advanced decline pretty much even up right now, Jim says. 1400, 1400. So that's actually kind of bullish. Oh, and now it's turned slightly positive. 1430 to 1426, the whole 4 ticks positive. All right, come on, bar. One more bar lower. Confirm this as a selling point. Well, you know what? I think I'm going to go with it anyhow. All right, for better or worse, here we are. Sellers, it's all on you now. And Jim says watch the NQ sell off to the other side of the trend line here and then bounce higher. That's entirely possible. What has me a little concerned too is, oops. Oh, well, here we can't see it very well on the Hawk. Let's draw it perhaps on the Falcon or the Raptor. Let's use the Raptor. So we've got a little bit of an overshoot here. Not so much an overshoot here, but still. And if I draw them parallel, you can see how we're shallowing up. We're not getting anywhere near the trend anymore. And it's threatening to head higher. And I think they just tagged me out. They did. Well, sometimes, well, I'm going to make a note in my journal now. We'll see whether or not these highs hold. If in fact I should have just stayed with the swing high with the top end of the trading range. Sideways markets, barbed wire, loads of fun. At least crude oil is behaving somewhat. Here's our Eagle trade in crude oil plodding along. Might have to do something with my stops there soon. Well, we'll stick with them for a few more minutes. Otherwise, we might close up shop at the top of the hour. We'll see if things loosen up here a little bit. Well, the advanced decline actually turned a little positive, Jim says. We're about a positive 20, which is still very neutral overall. But if you consider that we started the day, where were we? About a negative 400 or so. It does have a little bit of a bullish flavor to it. I'm not going to rush out and start buying things, though. But it is interesting that our sell signals worked for the most part until this last trade, which was, honestly, it was a little bit of a hit and hope style trade. And had I run my stops above the high, I would still be in this trade. So it's not exactly a failed trade just yet. But I can't see things shaking up much. It's been like this all morning. It's likely to be like this the rest of the session. So I think I'm going to pack up my toys and call it a day. Hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful weekend. I'll be back on Monday for you fathers. Happy Father's Day. And if you are going to hang out and trade this afternoon, gosh, I don't know what to tell you. I think this trading range here still holds some validity to it. If you're looking for a trade to take, a buy above the high, a sell below the low, that seems to be the best play right now. Anything else within here? I think you're just asking for it. All right, you guys, see you Monday. Have yourselves a good weekend. Bye for now.